Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. This is such a pleasure, and I'm so honored. We met many years ago on the set of Entrepreneur Magazine's elevator pitch, and it has just been such a pleasure getting to know you. You are so inspiring. Your journey is so inspiring. Um, More than anything, just you as a person, I think, is what I love best about you. So I'm glad that so many people will get to know you a little bit more, not just the business side of you, but also you help so many amazing entrepreneurs and you mentor so many individuals, and the impact that you are giving to the world is incredible. So I first want to say thank you so much for being here today with all of us. It's amazing.
It's such a pleasure, Kim, and right back at you. That's one of the highlights of doing elevator pitch was getting a chance to see, because listen, everyone out there, when you're filming a TV show like that, you spend the actual filmed part of it is about 1/100th of the time. The rest of it, you're sitting around and waiting for sets and lighting. And so if you don't like the people you're sitting around hanging out with, it takes all the fun out of it. And luckily, Kim, you made everything worthwhile.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much for writing the forward for my new book, Mistakes That Made Me a Millionaire. I know you have made so many mistakes, and it feels so good to have someone as incredible as you to really validate that mistakes are not the end, right? The mistakes are just the beginning, and it's what you do next that really counts. So, having your endorsement and just sharing your mistakes has really been helpful to me. And as we've gone through many years of learning from each other's, ups and downs, I think that's really what it's all about. And I'm just so grateful to have you here today. All
I'm
right.
glad to be here. Let's
Let's
talk about
go. Let's
mistakes.
get started. Let's start talking about all of our mistakes and how what we learned. So, I want to take it back first of all to where it all started. I started at my kitchen table and I made so many mistakes, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was too young. I didn't have any money. I had no experience. Like so many people out there, just try. I had a brilliant idea and I didn't feel ready, but I kept going. So, what was the biggest early mistake that you made at Netflix? And how did you find the courage to keep going after you made the mistake?
So I got to give you a bit of perspective here for people is that, I did start Netflix, but that was my sixth company. And so I had a long mistake ridden career up until that point. And one of the things that as an entrepreneur, as you know, Kim, what you're doing is entrepreneurship almost by definition is doing something that hasn't been done before. And so if you think that you can possibly do something that hasn't been done before without getting it wrong a bunch of times, you're sadly mistaken. You do, you try something, it doesn't work, you try something else, doesn't work. It's constant mistakes. And so I kind of have gone, there's two principles that I've kind of used to deal with mistakes. The first is I am completely comfortable making a mistake. The thing I try and do is not make the same mistake twice, which comes from really learning from your mistakes, is recognizing, oh man, that didn't work. What did I do wrong? How do I avoid doing that again? And believe me, there's plenty of time to make new ones. So don't worry about that. Just don't do the same mistake twice. But the other big learning that I've had, and this does inform the question about early days in Netflix, is it's sometimes hard to tell whether something is a mistake or not. And let me give you an example. So Netflix was started a long time ago. It was in 1998, and uh, it took us about 3 years to figure out what product market fit looked like. And once we did, things went crazy. I mean, it was growing like crazy. And then the dot com crash happened in the year 2000, and we were in deep trouble. I mean, I think that was the closest Netflix came to going out of business. And the thing we latched onto to try and save the company was we are going to try and sell ourselves to Blockbuster, kind of a famous story. And I won't belabor the story here, but basically we flew to Dallas and pitched them on buying us for $50 million. And they laughed at us basically. We were sent packing back to California with our tails between our legs. And on the plane, all I could think about was I have completely screwed up. Uh, I had one thing to do to save the company, which is to convince Blockbuster to buy us. And I didn't. I failed. Uh, and for a long time after that, I was just kicking myself. Going, what mistakes? God, I made so many mistakes, and I positioned it or pitched it because I failed at the one big thing I had to do. But looking back, was that really a mistake? And in fact, I might even argue that was probably the best possible thing that could have happened, not just to Netflix, but also to me as an entrepreneur. And so it's really hard to tell whether something you think is a mistake is actually a mistake. It takes time, it takes perspective. Um, and the lesson I took away from that was basically not to be so hard on myself because you never know. So
Mm.
that that was the biggest mistake, but was it a mistake? I'm not
Mm.
so sure.
Yeah, yeah. Looking back, right? It's easy to look backwards and be like, oh, hindsight. That was the best thing that actually ever happened to me, is they
It's
didn't
funny.
find me. Else, where would Netflix be today?
Yeah, and that's a really interesting question, but believe me, you and I would not be talking about this right now.
No.
My life would have been very, very different, and certainly all the people who were spending too much time in front of screens would have had a very, very different experience too.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, you and I started, I mean, you were on your sixth company. I was my first back in the early 2000s, right? During that dot-com crash. And my company had raised 100 million. It went bankrupt. I was fired. It was, one of the, internet graveyards of the time. But what do you think separated Netflix from the others that didn't survive? I mean, it sounds like you were like, okay, I hope I sell the Blockbuster so I don't crash. But like, how'd you come out of that and actually what was that mindset decision and that you did survive?
So it's a combination of things, and we did survive, of course, but um, a lot of it was luck and timing, and and what almost took us down was not the dot-com crash, although that certainly hurt in the year 2000, but it was the fact that we listened to the wrong people.
Mhm.
And listen, for all of you folks who now we're way beyond internet, that's a normal thing. But there was a while, just like for AI right now, where the world was trying to figure out what is this technology good for? And you would not believe the garbage that you saw on the coming onto the internet, and not only coming onto the internet, but looking like it was the most amazing company in the world and getting huge amounts of funding. And you'd look at it and go, "This makes no sense." Um, and we fell for that trap. And the trap we fell for was we were sitting around the boardroom, and the VCs were going, okay, Mark, the next big thing is portals, which is you're going to become a one stop shop for everything movies. You'll have show times and you'll sell tickets and there'll be advertising. And I so remember sitting there thinking, this makes no sense. That's not a sustainable business model. And the thing that everyone said at the time was, you'll make it up in volume. Basically, capture the eyeballs and we'll figure out how to monetize it later. And that was such bullshit. And we actually were in registration to go public. We had an investment bank, had the prospectus, and we were going to go public right around April of the year 2000. And we're going to go public as a portal. And had that happened, um, we'd be out of business because there was no sustainable. The only way you could sustain a business which has no revenue is by continuing huge amounts of investment. And that dried up entirely after the dot com crash. And so, how did we survive? By finally getting back to basics and saying, if we're going to make this, we've got to have a business model where we actually can sell something and charge more for it than what it costs us to do it.
Which is
And that was an
amazing.
incredibly good discipline. And I've taken that with me forever is that you would bet if you pitch me on something, you would better demonstrate to me, not necessarily right now, but that what you're building has a sustainable business model associated with it, that you're actually have a way in the future to make money at this.
Well, it's interesting because you started as, oh, I'm going to go public as a portal, but then obviously you have to pivot. And I talk about in the book, failing to pivot is a huge mistake. And I've made that mistake early on in my career because I thought I knew everything and I was young. And I remember because I had a digital company, and first everyone said the internet's a fad, just as you're saying, Mark, like the internet's, and then I remember social media coming on, and I was like, this social media thing, it's not gonna, this is me. I'm like, it's not gonna be big. I don't, who's gonna post their picture on the internet? Anyway, famous last words. But then I pivoted my business to actually embrace social media, and that became a $200 million revenue stream for me. So it's similar to AI. Like, how do you embrace new technology, new opportunities? And how does that, if you're at a business right now, looking at it, like, what's the pivot you're going to make? And how do you know when you have product market fit? So, I mean, Mark, I'd love to know, how do you know, at Netflix, when you did have product market fit, and what advice would you give other entrepreneurs that are sitting there trying to figure it out, right? Because you have a great idea, and you're waiting to see if the market's going to actually embrace the idea, and or should you persevere or should you pivot? Like, how do you know?
Yeah, it's such a great question, and product market fit is such an interesting and elusive beast. And there's this famous Supreme Court case from quite a while ago, and it was kind of about, believe it or not, about pornography. And the famous quote was, they go, "I'm not sure we know how to define it, but we know it when we see it." And that's exactly what product market fit is. All of a sudden, things click, it works, it takes off, and you go, "Oh, we are onto something." Um, but up until that point, you have to be remarkably flexible.
Mm,
My friend Uri Levine, who is the founder of Waze, puts it pretty succinctly, and he says, "You do not fall in love with the solution; you fall in love with the problem."
mm,
Because if you lock onto your solution, you're just going to keep trying to make something work, just sticking to it doggedly, which is kind of ridiculous. And the idea is, yeah, fall in love with the problem, but the second you realize it doesn't work, the second you've made that mistake, switch, try something new. And that constant pivoting, if you will, is so critical. And what gets companies in trouble is they go, "Oh, hey, this looks pretty good. Revenue is pretty consistent. We can kind of we can do our financial projections using a ruler and a pencil. It's by doing a straight line out." And they go, let's be more efficient. And they bring in all these people who are efficiency experts. I mean, they're going to shorten the supply chain and they're going to shave off some margin points. And they're amazingly good at that. But those types of people are not very good at when the world shifts and all of a sudden you have to completely change what you're doing. And so the trick is that you want to, even as you begin to feel that product market fit, is recognize that if the world shifts, I've got to be willing to shift with it, which
mhm,
means maintaining flexibility, never locking in, always be looking at your options. And then the quick example for this one is uh, Netflix started off with a ridiculous idea, which was shipping DVDs by the mail. It was video rental by mail. And everyone told me that idea would never work. And so when we finally launched video rental by mail, it was actually quite interesting because it didn't work. They were all right. But that's okay because we had a vision of where we were ultimately going. And it was just a matter of continuing to change what we tried to make it work. And we tried everything and eventually stumbled onto something completely non-intuitive on how to make video rental by mail work. We rode that for another 7 years. But from day one, we knew this business was going to have to change. The reason everyone said it wouldn't work, well, one was Blockbuster, but the other one was it's digital. This is going to be a matter of days before everyone's downloading movies or streaming movies. So you had to be anticipating that this video rental by mail thing is going to be might be a great ride for a while, But yes, the world is going to shift. And we had better be putting ourselves in position now to be ready when that happens, even though we have no idea of whether it's going to be 6 months or 6 years. And it turned out to be 9 years.
That's such great advice because as a founder, you're sitting there thinking, I've got this great idea, but you have to be flexible. And I think Netflix is a great example of that pivot. And 90% of the companies, I mean, I've invested in so many companies, have pivoted at least once. And successful founders are the ones that pivot. I mean, YouTube started as a dating site, Twitter as a podcast platform. I mean, Shopify started by selling snowboarding equipment. Like these companies, great companies that we know and love, all pivoted. So if you're struggling in your business right now and for whatever reason it doesn't work, the important thing to take away is how can you pivot? Like,
Yeah, how can you
give
try
me
something
permission to,
different?
right? Permission to pivot. Everyone start pivoting. If it's not working, acknowledge it, right? Don't put your head in the sand. Like, actually, how can you make it work, right? What is the pivot?
Yeah, that is the key thing. And it is entrepreneurship is an iterative process. You're constantly trying something, seeing what happens. And usually they don't work. And
Yeah,
so, but you go, but almost always there's a glimmer of hope somewhere. I mean, at the very least, what you learn is, well, that thing I tried didn't work. But almost always you learn something else. Uh,
right. That you can
and
take with you,
it's
right?
sometimes
And
an
adapt.
intuition. Oh, wow, that was kind of interesting. Maybe we should do a test over here and test over here. And it is a zigzaggy path that if you stick with it long enough, eventually gets to the point where you go, whoa, now the things I'm trying are starting to work more often than they don't work. But you're absolutely right. It's maintaining, I mean, flexibility is everything, in my opinion.
Right. But how do you know? I mean, it's interesting because we're entrepreneurs, we pivot all the time. But how do you know when to actually quit? I mean, I write about in the book, like my mistake is quitting too soon, but I've been to like I've been to the point of where you want to quit so many times. And I'm an expert on the edge of what the person who's like, I need to quit, and then I don't. Like, how do you know when to quit?
Yeah, and quite honestly, Kim, that's probably the hardest question to answer. And I'll be the first to say I don't have a good answer for it.
Mm.
And and partly because this is going to sound stupid, but I've never really quit.
Me
Uh,
neither. That's what I
and
write
so
about.
I have no idea when to quit because I've never really seen that moment in myself. But it's not because in some ways every don't take it the wrong way, Kim, but every successful entrepreneur has a little bit of a character flaw here, which
Wait,
is
are you
this
saying I have a character flaw?
absolutely because you don't be successful without this almost irrational optimism that
Mm,
eventually I'm going to figure this out. If I just keep poking at it, and what makes you quit is not you saying, I quit. Someone makes you quit.
mm,
And I don't mean some person, you run out of money.
yeah.
Or a huge competitor comes in the space, which makes it so obvious that you're going down the wrong path. And the problem, and the thing is, when you're doing something that no one has ever done before, you you have to start so early and so prematurely before markets are developed. Like Netflix, when we started, what made it work was the DVD coming on the scene. That little, like a little music CD, and that was because we bet that maybe DVD players are going to be ubiquitous. But and we had a bet because if we had said, let's wait a few years and see whether this technology really is in every household to make this thing work on a big, no, then someone else would have done it. So you've got to bet big on very uncertain information, and it could just as easily have gone the way that the DVD ended up going the way of the laser disc. And if
Mhm.
you've never heard of a laser disc, well, that's the point is that that's a technology that didn't work. DVDs happen to work, and they did end up in 97% of households, which then made video rental by mail using DVDs work. But
Yeah.
if that hadn't worked, that's just the chance you take. And I would have been in a position going, this isn't working. I got to try something else.
But you have to always, as an entrepreneur, make decisions without complete information. And I talk about the mistake of never being 100% ready. Like you'll never be ready. So to your point, you could have made the wrong decision. And I use the rule of thumb that I learned early on is a Marine Corps rule, which is 70% rule. Is if you have 70% of the information, enough information to make a decision, you act. And it helped me find the way to get out of my analysis paralysis in my head, which is I'm trying to perfect everything. And it enabled me to give me permission to act if I had 70%. If you have 100% of the information, the market's passed you by. Like you've lost, right? It's so giving people a framework to think, okay, if I'm at 70%, I can go and then adjust along the way, right?
Well, 70% assumes that you actually know what 100% looks like, and
Yeah.
that's the problem, is you don't. And but you're hitting on a key thing, is I think the true definition of an entrepreneur in some ways is that you become comfortable making decisions based on incomplete or inconclusive or even contradictory information. That you recognize I'm never going to have enough information to have sureness. And that if you're the type of person who wants surety, if whoever the right word is there, you're it's not going to work. You've got to be willing to start down a trail when you can't see around the corner.
Mhm.
And too many people, they're at the beginning of the trail going, I can't tell if it's going to work. I might be a cliff over there. And I'm going to study the problem. I'll have a task force. I'll interview people. Yeah, no, you just got to say the best way to figure out what's around the corner is to walk that quarter mile and look. And yeah, maybe it's undoable, then you just come back. That, and
Or
you're
you
right.
fall off.
It's being willing to accept that you're never going to have enough information. And it's listen, it's I get it. We're all scared. No one likes to make mistakes. No one likes to look foolish. No one likes to be proven wrong. And so it's human. And the only way you get to that ability to do that thing comfortably is practice, is doing this thing that you think is scary and terrifying and doing it. And then, look, wow, no one even noticed. What am I so scared of? I'll do it again. Whoa. And I'm sure it's the same with you, Kim, is that by now, I don't even notice that I just do shit all the time that I don't know what's going to happen.
Me too, but I feel very confident. That's why I wanted to write this book is because mistakes, you feel ashamed of them. You're striving for perfection, but actually the growth happens when you take the risk, when you actually just jump in and figure it out along the way and know that it will never be perfect. Like it
Yeah,
just
it is.
won't.
It's such a weird skill to have, is to be comfortable looking foolish. If to no one else, then to yourself.
And
The analogy I use is so one of my claims to fame is I am really bad at about six languages. And so I'm really bad at them, but I can't help it. I always want to try and learn. And I've kind of figured out that the only way to achieve any kind of progress in learning another language is you've got to be willing to walk into the coffee shop and open your mouth and have something comes out that sounds like you're 4 years old as a grown ass adult. And that's really hard. And instead, you stand outside the coffee shop practicing and practice. But that's not how anyone speaks. You've got to go in and go, I'm going to look foolish, but that's the only way I'm going to learn. And entrepreneurship is just the same way. You just got
oh
to
my
listen. You look around you and go, look at people like Kim and like Mark, and they sure seem like they know what they're doing and they're so confident. And no, we're just as lost as you guys are. We're just
gosh.
comfortable being lost and comfortable that eventually we're going to see a landmark we recognize that
Yes. Oh my
will
God.
let us know, oh, we are on the right track after all.
Yes, I talk about that all the time because people think, oh, you think to your point, I get rejected all the time, especially if you're raising capital. I know a lot of people are doing that right now. Like you're going to get rejected hundreds of times. Like I get rejected. I was on actually an investor call before I even got on this call. Like you're going to get rejected. I always tell people, go for the no. It's inevitable you're going to get rejected. So I'm just going to try to get a no, and I don't care, but it makes me feel every time I get the no, I get that much stronger. I get better. My pitch gets perfected. Similar to language. By the time you ask for the coffee 10 times over in Italian, I nailed it, right? So you just have to put
Absolutely.
yourself out there. And that's scary. And I get it. But you're not going to be successful unless you're willing to make mistakes, to fail, and to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because that's where like the actual magic happens.
Yeah, I was doing a real estate deal a bunch of years ago, and I had like the handshake agreement with the person who was buying the property. And then the lawyers got involved, and I'm sitting there, and the lawyer's going, "Well, we want this." And I go, "That wasn't what was agreed to." And he had another one like that. I go, "That wasn't agreed to." And after like the third time I said that, he goes, don't ask, don't get.
Yes,
And at the
yes.
time, I was so mad. But as I went away, I go, that's actually really good advice. You know,
Oh my
don't
God.
ask, you don't get. So,
I love it. I totally agree, right? I ask all the time, but get rejected all the time, but like I have more wins than I do have losses, right? You have to keep getting out there and but yeah, rejection hurts. But anyone listening, if you don't ask, you don't get. So you better get out there and start asking. Ask for the mentor, ask for the sale, ask for the investment, ask for the coffee, whatever it is. Like you have to put yourself in that position. And Mark, you've gotten rejected so many times too, right? It never gets easier, does it? Like it always kind of stings.
no, it always, yeah, it is funny. It's one of the, like, I know we both do public speaking, and there's this cognitive dissonance where you go, I know my stuff. I know that as soon as I'm on the stage, I'm going to be fine. But you're backstage and you're going, and you get nervous and you go, oh God, I'm really nervous. But this other part of your brain goes, don't worry about it because I know you're nervous now, but you're not going to be nervous as soon as you step out there. And it's the same thing with this asking for things. You, you're not getting yourself to the point where it doesn't sting or it doesn't feel funny or it isn't scary. You get to the point where you recognize that afterwards you go, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And and so little by little, it gets easier and easier and easier to overcome that feeling. But it's not aiming to not have that feeling. And if you don't have that feeling, that's not good either. You want to be a little, you're not pushing enough. How about that?
Right. Yes. Yeah. When you get, I mean, yeah, to your point, when you're on stage, you're still in the back being like, you get nervous. You're like, okay, I got, you got this. But I think that's where the growth happens. You should feel that excitement. You want to feel that. I think that's where you grow the most, right? You learn the most. You're in positions where you actually will find that you look back and that's where you got the most confidence to know that you can do things in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's what the growth is of being a business person. And you find you begin applying that too in all kinds of other situations
Oh
where you
my
go.
gosh.
So I was reading this really interesting article. We'll get off topic. What the hell?
Yeah.
Um,
We get
and they've done these really big longitudinal studies of happiness where they've tracked people for 50, 60 years trying to say what is it that makes someone happy. And so one of the things they learned quite a while ago is they go, people who are are in a great married relationship are happy, but they don't know, are they happy because they're in the great married relationship, or are they in a great married relationship because they're happy? So what they eventually have figured out is that what drives happiness is connection.
Mm.
And they go, it can be and the point of this whole little educational moment for everybody is that it doesn't need to be a big interaction. They said just talking to people, strangers, will do it, will have an effect on you. For example, standing in line at any place and talking to the person in front of you or behind you. And they go, it's none of us like that. It's kind of scary to go, I'm just going to talk to a stranger. They're going to think I'm crazy, that I'm taking up their time. And they go, it almost always is the opposite, that the people are happy to talk. And
Mm.
afterwards, you go, that was actually great. That wasn't that bad. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about is taking this thing that feels uncomfortable and just doing it.
Well, I think that applies a lot too when, I mean, I believe in mentorship. I'm a huge proponent of having a mentor. And people always ask me, well, Kim, how do I get a mentor? Because it feels uncomfortable to ask. Sometimes people don't respond to you or for whatever reason. What is your advice for someone looking for a mentor?
Oh, that's a good question. You have to kiss a lot of frogs is the first one. Uh, because most likely you don't know what you need. And what you think you need is probably what you really need. And I'm saying that from my experience. I've been mentoring people now for just about 20 years. And what everyone thinks they want advice from is go-to-market strategy or our technology stack or fundraising. But what they almost always end up having be the valuable part of the mentor relationship is the interpersonal stuff. It's
Mhm.
struggles with your co-founder. It's imposter syndrome. It's all those weird things that you would not learn in business school. Uh, and so that's the point. So when you're going to evaluate who you might be a good person for you is figuring out what is it you really are looking for help and being transparent about that. But it also, listen, it takes, like I said, kissing a lot of frogs. So um, when my son was wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I go, yeah, I go, listen, I love the aspiration, but I want you to really understand what this is about, and you've got to find someone that you can intern with and see what it's like. And I said it's going to take you a long time, and what you're going to have to do is just basically have coffee with lots and lots and lots of people. And to have coffee with lots and lots and lots of people, you're going to have to ask 10 or 20x those people to go to coffee, have a coffee with you. And you have to, it's back to that previous thing we talked about. You've got to be comfortable with them saying no and going, that's okay. But it's amazing when you ask that occasionally, yes, someone goes, of course, I'm happy to help.
Oh
And
my.
going in and just talking about something with somebody. And you do that enough, and listen, I've never done, I've been married for too long before online dating. It's what I would imagine online dating is. I mean, you got to swipe a lot of times before you have a match. And then you have to go on a bunch of these essential blind dates with a lot of people you matched with before you go, wow, both of us are connecting. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same when you're trying to find someone to help mentor you.
And it
Is
comes down to chemistry,
ask.
right? It really does. Like you have to have chemistry with your mentor because you want them to be invested in your success. Sometimes you may think they're the perfect mentor, but they're actually not.
Oh, it's 100% that. And I can't speak from the mentee perspective because I haven't done that in quite a long time. But like what I'm looking for in the people who I want to make that amount of time investment with, I don't care what product you're building. I don't care what technology you're using. It isn't like I go, oh, I only do AI or a blockchain or two side. I have certain things I like, but that is not the criteria. The criteria is entirely the interpersonal relationship. Is this person interesting? Is this person fun? And one of the most important ones is, does this person listen? Because listen, it's a weird combination of personality traits. Because to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to have this unbelievable self confidence. You have to be willing to have 100 people say no to you and still be able to go, no, I am going to make this work.
Mhm.
But you have to also, you don't have to, but the people I look for are the people who also hear. They don't necessarily agree, but they factor in what someone said and what their opinion was and make a judgment about is that valid or not valid. And I'm looking for I don't need someone to do what I say. I don't want them to do what I say necessarily, but I want them to hear what I said and factor that into their thinking. And I'm looking for that. But the ultimate criteria, Kim, is if my phone buzzes at 11 o'clock at night and I look at the caller ID and wince, I made the wrong decision.
I think
You've
that's
got to like the
anyone.
person.
I don't think it's just for mentors. It's like life. Guys, if someone, you see the phone on your, yeah, like someone, I know that feeling. They call and you're like, oh, I don't want to, maybe like that's a toxic relationship, move them out. Like it's not for you. So next time you see that, I completely agree with that statement. I know that person, their name comes up. You're like, I do not want to pick up, reevaluate your relationship with that person. Like that is just hands down the best advice we can give you right now because everyone has that person, right? Where they call you and you're going, oh, I really don't want to pick up.
I mean, I think fundamentally, you have to kind of ask yourself, why would someone want to be a mentor? I
Mm,
mean, especially if you're an early stage company, you're not going to make any money from that. The odds are, anyway, it's like one to gazillion. So you don't do it for the money. You do it for something else. And you do it because you fundamentally want to see someone hopefully achieve success. You want to feel, I call it my startup methadone. You want to feel like you're a part of building this company. And fundamentally, what you want is to have this front row seat and watch someone go for it. And that's what the best, for me anyway, what the best mentoring relationships are.
Oh my gosh, me too. I have so many great mentees that you just feel so proud, right? When they're doing so great and they're achieving what you want them to achieve. You're personally invested in their success. Okay, we're going to get to Q&A, but I wanted to just make sure we touch on one more question, which what's the most dangerous myth about failure and making mistakes that you see entrepreneurs believing?
So, um, God, there's a lot of them. I'll go with this one, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, go basically. Listen, I got to do two of them. So,
Yeah.
the 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 biggest one, and you touched on this, is uh, the belief in the epiphany that all of a sudden you're going to have this idea and it's going to spring forth from your head fully formed, and oh my God, this is it. And it's like you said, it's like it's not all these. It's not like eBay was like, oh, I know my girlfriend's trying to sell Pez dispensers. There, we'll do this quote. Uber is not like, oh, can't get a cab on New Year's Eve. Boom, and all that stuff's myth. The process is iterating on ideas over and over and over again, and not buying into them and being flexible to see what happens. So it's that expectation. And what that really comes down to, and this is the big one, is I don't know. I know you probably have, Kim, since you've been in some big companies stuff. But those of you who worked in a large company, is this thing they have these brainstorming sessions where they're basically trying to get buy-in or they're ideating or something like that. And a brainstorming session, everyone gets in a little room, and then a moderator gets up and goes, "Okay, ground rules. First, there is no such thing as a bad idea." And that is such bullshit. There are billions of bad ideas. In fact, I go out on a limb and I say there's no such thing as a good idea. They're
Mm,
all bad ideas because if you're doing something that hasn't been done before, that idea, I guarantee, is flawed in one way or another. Uh, and if the myth is that I've got to have a good idea, you're in trouble. You've got to go, this is an idea. It's kind of dumb, but as much as that, anyone who tells you, hey, that's a good idea, what do you know? That's a bad idea. What do you know? The only way we're going to figure out good ideas from bad ideas is by trying them.
mm.
And that's the process. So there's my advice.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Well, we have so many great questions, and I know hundreds of people send in questions. I mean, honestly, you could probably sit here all day. We're gonna go move into Q&A, and I want to first say, like the mistakes, guys, they don't break you, they make you, and that is why I wrote my new book. Right? Is to be
Mhm.
able to make sure we're embracing mistakes. And just listening to you, Mark, like we've made countless mistakes and we still became successful, not in spite of them, but because of them. So if everyone here is listening and you're looking for how do I continue to learn from the mistakes that we've made ourselves, and we talk about in the book, please go and get Mistakes That Made Me a Millionaire. It's on pre-order right now. It's coming. There's some amazing gifts that we have with the Millionaire Mistakes Fast Action Workbook. There's a Millionaire Mistakes community. There's exclusive success training. And I mean, myself, and I know Mark included, like our goal is to pay it forward, to give back, because we have been so blessed with so many incredible companies, incredible mentors, and incredible relationships that this is, honestly, this book is my gift. In terms of all of the great knowledge and just being very transparent and authentic to all of the mistakes that I have made and that so many others have made too, because mistakes, we live in a picture perfect world where everything looks easy, but the reality is success is not easy. It's like a winding, curvy road full of detours and setbacks and dead ends. And even if you hit them, that does not mean you will be like rock bottom's a great place to start again. I mean, I was fired, I was bankrupt, I've been broke, I've been sued, I've been served. Every bad thing has happened to me, and I still became successful despite them. So really wanting to encourage anyone out there that's listening to this that you can be at a any point of your career, make mistakes and still become hugely successful. So please join me to help make mistakes more mainstream and not something to be ashamed of, but something to be discussed because that is how we're going to learn and that is how we're going to grow. So I'm now going to take it. There's so many good questions. I'm going to start with Greg. Greg, Mark, what are three things you would tell your younger self? I always love this,
Oh,
right?
uh,
Look back.
maybe rather than three, I'll give, one, I would say trust your instincts. And that took me a while to figure that out. One, it took a while to realize that my instincts generally are good. But the thing that catalyzed that, I worked for a company for a while, and there was a production manager at this company, and he was an unbelievable jerk. And I could not bear to be in the same room with him and interact with him and all that kind of stuff. And what was odd is everyone else at the company liked him. Like, hey, Frank, how are you? How was your weekend? The whole thing. And I would go home and go, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get along with this person? Why is my judgment, I was second guessing myself, the things he'd get mad at. I'd go, am I doing something wrong? And then, of course, he ended up leaving the company. And as soon as he left the company, everyone's going, oh my God, what an asshole. And uh, and I went, whoa. So everyone did see it the same as me. And that's been repeated over and over again. And I see it all. My daughter just went through a similar thing like that. And it's takes a while to realize that your intuitions are probably pretty good. And that's taken me a while to figure out. And it's so important because if you are always asking, the more advice you ask for, more likely you're going to get to a wrong answer.
I love that. But I totally agree. I totally agree. Trusting my gut and my intuition because your intuition knows, right? You know. And
You
sometimes,
do.
yeah, you're clouded by other people. So I've had that experience before, exactly what you're saying. Everyone loves, and then I had a partner once, and um, once I separated the partnership, every person was like, I could have told you it was the worst partner ever. I'm going, why didn't you tell me before? Like, thanks for the advice too late. Like I've already, I lost millions. Like, and they're
Yeah,
like,
you just
right?
got to be careful about being overly arrogant. It's kind of like I was talking about the mentee approach, which is that uh, ask around, you know,
Right.
and
Yes. Ask
be
around.
informed, but don't listen to what people are saying and think about it, whether it applies, but then make your own judgment.
Agreed, 100%. I should have asked around more. I assumed just because they had this great experience that they would be amazing, and then reality set in, they were terrible. And then once I started asking around, people were like, "Oh, I could have told you that." Oh, that was a huge mistake. Learn from that
Yep.
one. Okay, here's another one from Annie. What's the best method to test and validate the idea before going ahead and developing the product? What's the right
Oh,
first step?
that is such a critical thing, because it's all drilled into us as entrepreneurs about the minimal viable product. And if you're doing a minimal viable project, you are doing way too much. What you want to do is have a minimal unviable product. And it really, this has been a great call because I keep coming up with these characteristics of great entrepreneurs. But it's not how good your idea is. It is how clever and creative you can be to figure out a way to test that concept quickly, cheaply, and easily. And here's the trick is that in every idea, there's four or five components to that idea packed together. You might go, well, I'm going to do an e-commerce site that does this and does that. Well, uh, you just said three things, and some of them are givens. Like you're not wondering, are people going to do e-commerce? No. Are people going to give me their credit card? Of course they will. Can I know the location? Yeah. All this stuff is established, so you've got to piece apart. What's the one piece of that you're really uncertain about? And then figure out a way to just test that. And you can do, if you have an e-commerce idea for a product, you don't need to build an e-commerce site. You don't even need to Shopify. You can figure out some way to fake it. You can do it with a card table next to the lemonade stand. I mean, Your question isn't, can I do an e-commerce site? It's, does anyone want this product? Or are they willing to pay this price for that product? Or are they, if I buy one, are they going to buy more? And you can test those concepts in a day for no money. And the best entrepreneurs do that over and over and over and over and over again as they begin to accumulate a feeling about whether they're onto something or not. Back when I was a lad, back in 1998, if you wanted to do a e-commerce website like Netflix was, there was no Shopify. So you had to write the code yourself. There was no AWS to host this. You had to buy the servers and stick them in a closet and wire them together. There was no Stripe and PayPal. You had to write the code. You had to code the portals to the banks. It was brutal. So to test this was really, really hard and very expensive. It took a long time, which is why I was 38, because they wouldn't have given a youngster that much money to do those things. But you have no excuse. You do have Shopify. You do have free AdWords. You do have Stripe and PayPal. You do have a. You could have tested what we tested at Netflix, and you could put it together in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you want to do is figure out the quick, cheap, and easy ways to try things.
Yeah, it's never been easier. To your point, I remember going to the data centers, right? Like there's no AWS. Like we were going downtown and like stacking the
And even
right?
money is so much easy. I know everyone's going to roll their eyes and go, "You haven't bitched," but it's so much easier than it was. There's so much angel and friends and family money and seed money around that if you're not greedy and you're you scale your aspirations to your abilities and you can get started. And if you do something quick, cheap, and easy and simple, you don't need much money to get going. So all this
Okay,
stuff,
well here that Nick's actually asking that. How do I raise funds when I have traction but no cash to build a product? What would you recommend for him?
you've got to pick. Listen, there's a lot of people who invest on promise. I mean, you're not going to go to a VC and get that, not in a million years. And you're not going to get $1 million based on that. But you don't need $1 million. What you're trying to do is prove there's a there, which is it doesn't need to be repeatable. It does not need to be scalable. I mean, if you said the customer facing stuff feels real, but boy, back behind the scenes, it's a bunch of squirrels running on little treadmills. It's me with a 3x5 cards and yellow pads, and I can't keep this up. But look what I've learned using nothing more but 3x5 cards and yellow pads and my squirrels. It's like I've learned now what my acquisition cost is. I learned what my lifetime value is. I've learned all these things, and that's what they want to see. They
Mhm.
don't need to actually see it in action. So you've got to make sure you have a very clear idea of what they want to know prior to investing in you and go, how can I prove that and bring that information to them? And if you don't know what criteria they're going to use to make that decision, well, ask them. Go and have a meeting and go, listen, I'm not ready to raise money now. What if I get your advice? What kind of things would you be looking for that I should learn? And the last one is make sure do not go to someone whose track record is I only invest in animal pharmaceuticals, and you're going to them with like a AI product.
Mhm.
Do your research. Go, to this person do small checks? Is this person a seed stage investor? Is this person interested in the category that I'm working in? And they'll
Mhm.
be happy to take a meeting if you've done your research and you know who you're talking to. And again, it can be informational. I'm not ready. I'd love to talk to you where I'm going. I'm raising money now. It's where I'm going, and I want to understand what it would be helpful for me to demonstrate to you when I do come back and ask for
Yeah.
money.
I love that. I love that. The worst thing for me, and I obviously invest in a lot of different startups, is when, and I'm agnostic, but I want to be passionate about what I'm investing in. Because at a startup idea, you're basically betting on the person. You're betting that this person's going to bring their dream to life, and they'll probably pivot a couple times along the way. So I want to know. I mean, at the end of the day, people are betting on people at early stage where you don't actually have the idea.
You know, for those of you who are maybe engineers out in the audience, The best question using to interview an engineer is, well, what are you coding in your spare time? And that you're looking for that. You're looking for someone who's so passionate about it and so driven they just can't help doing it. And it goes the same for you as an entrepreneur. Kim's right. It's most important criteria is people. Second most criteria is people, and the third one is, you guessed it, people. Because the idea you come to pitch me, it's a bad idea, but I'm okay with that. But
Yeah.
I want to know that you have the discipline, persistence, creativity to make it happen. And that's going to require being flexible, all that stuff. And that's what I'm looking for.
I love that. Okay, Peter asks, what's the best business to start right now if you were going to start again?
I'd do an AI company in a heartbeat. And not necessarily because I'm an AI geek, but what we're all at this incredibly interesting moment in history is every single industry is being disrupted. Every single industry is having to change. And so if you're trying to compete with it, like, let's pick one, investment bank, and I'm going to do the same things they've already always been doing. And I'm a little startup and they're a multi-billion dollar. No, no chance in hell. But right now they're reeling. They're on their back. They're on their heels. They are having to change everything. It's completely up in the air. Now's the time. And it's not just banking. It's everything. And so were I a younger man, 100%, that's what I would be doing.
Hey, Mark, it's never too late. There's a comment here. I'm trying to find it, but someone said they're 50. Is it too late to start?
So of course not. I mean, I did Netflix when I was 38. I did Looker when I was older than 50, and that in some ways, at least personally, that was a bigger outcome for me than Netflix
What was
was.
the outcome for Looker, Mark?
We sold Looker to Google for $2.6 billion dollars. So that was a great outcome. And because I was smarter, and I knew the playbook that much better. So it's taking your experience and saying, how do I apply that? It's never too late to start. But listen, for me, it's not too late. I could do it, but I'm just fighting like crazy to not do it. I'm compelled to do it. I'm drawn to do it. But I've always had other stuff that intrigues me in my life, and I don't. I've spent 50 years, you know, 7 by 24 thinking about stuff. And I'm trying desperately not to be that because I want to spend some of my time thinking about other stuff.
I mean, you've had so many successes. I just wanted to leave with one last question, which is when you look back, I mean, Looker, Netflix, you've had so many companies, so many success. What's the biggest success that that you would say that you've
So
had?
I think you and I will share a little bit of this answer. But so listen, when I was about my late 20s, early 30s, I was working like a dog. I was working all the time, early in the morning, stay late, work weekends, not because I had a slave driver boss, but because I was so, I loved what I was doing. And I was also living with my girlfriend at the time. And it slowly dawned on me, maybe with some hints from her, that this was not the basis of a sustainable relationship. And it was a really interesting moment because I kind of had to decide what were my priorities. And at that point, um, I've got to do this differently. That entrepreneurship is bottomless. It'll take everything you give it. Um, and it's not just that I wanted to have a relationship with my girlfriend, but I have this other problem, which is that the thing that makes me whole is outdoor stuff. It's backcountry skiing and mountain biking and canoeing and kayaking and surfing. And unfortunately, those are not things you can squeeze into between your 11 o'clock call and your 9 o'clock meeting. Um, I'd have to do something to allow that to stay part of my life and have this relationship and be an entrepreneur. And I've been working on that now for, 50 plus years. And I've gotten pretty good at it. And so, listen, I've had some huge economic successes. Netflix, certainly, oh my God, who never thought that would happen? Looker, also amazing. I've had a bunch of IPOs, and I'm certainly proud of that. So that's pretty cool. But the thing I'm proudest of is the fact that I was able to do that and stay married to the same woman for going almost 40 years, and have my children grow up knowing me and, as best as I can tell, liking me, and being able to get out and mountain bike and backcountry ski and surf and do the things that keep me whole. So, what am I proud of? It's the fact that I think I've demonstrated it is possible to be
Mm.
successful and to have a life and to have the relationships that are important and do the things that keep you whole. That's what I'm proud of.
You're such an inspiration. I mean, to me too. So it just like that is if if you can do that and you can find that balance and have it all, which you've shown you can, like what better gift. So thank you for
Yep.
sharing that. Like that truly
Not
is.
easy, Kim, but oh my God, so worth it.
Yes, it's prioritization though, right? It's like making that the priority.
Yeah,
Because entrepreneur, as you said, it can crush you. It can take everything you have all day, 24/7, and it will if you let it.
exactly. And
Mm.
what you learn is that it's not, most of the stuff you spend your time on is just spinning wheels, and that you can let a lot of stuff go. And what you learn to do is you learn to figure out pretty quickly what are the two or three things that if I get those right, all the rest doesn't really matter.
Oh my gosh. Well, Mark, this has been such amazing talk today. I mean, just I love spending time with you. It's never enough. No matter how much time we spend together, and we spend hours and days and days and days, it never is enough. I always leave so inspired, so energized. And thank you everyone who joined today for your incredible comments, for your great questions. And I hope that you leave today with a gold nugget and knowing that your mistakes again will not define who you are, right? Like failing does not make you a failure, right? And I think it's reminding ourselves, and we talk about these 10 mistakes in the book. Mark has written graciously the foreword and talks about how his journey has led to his success. But I encourage you, please pre-order the book today and get these amazing bonuses. We've got so much great content and we hope you learn from all of our mistakes so you don't have to make the same ones. We'll continue to make them though, Mark, right? Like this isn't over. Mistakes will happen.
No, that's part of the fun of it. We'll absolutely keep on going.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for everyone that's joined today and we will see you guys again soon.